Welcome back to the Elevate the Enterprise series, where we talk everything Cisco Meraki. Now, you were probably wondering, where has David gone? I haven't seen one of David's videos pop up in my timeline in the last couple of weeks. While I'm back, I took some time off with the family. I took a step back, and that's always an important thing. If there's one takeaway, one message you get from this video, it's just that. Step back and relax. It's good for your mental health. It's good for your body. Those tickets will be there when you get back. Now, unless it's a Sev 1 and you can't step away, hopefully that's over very soon and you at least have some time to relax. Do that. In the meantime, you can watch some of my videos. Now, today, we're going to talk about Cisco Meraki Insight. If you haven't seen Insight before, we'll spend a few minutes on it today. Good data leads to good decisions. And Cisco Meraki Insight gives you good data on what's happening with your applications and what's happening on the WAN side of the house, and even with voice over IP. There's a lot of good things you'll get out of Meraki Insight. So let's take a look today. Let's spend a few minutes exploring. Over the last couple of weeks, we took a look at what was happening at the edge of the enterprise. The Cisco Meraki MX providing security services, providing edge services. We took a look at Secure Connect on the SASE side. Today, we're going to spend a few minutes just talking about the data, the applications, what we can do through the MX, especially when we have Insight enabled. Insight will give you good data on what's happening with your WAN links and what's happening with some of the applications that you are monitoring. So let's take a look at that. If we go to the left side, we'll click on Insight, and we have a couple of options: Web App Health, WAN Health, VoIP Health, and even Internet outages, which might look familiar to some of you Thousand Eyes users out there. We'll click on Web App Health. Here in Web App Health is where we'll be able to see the applications that we're concerned about. We have the ability to say, I want to monitor what is happening with this application or with that application. And there are some applications already in the system that you can select from. And you can provide some custom information to create your own custom app that you want to use Insight to monitor. So as you can see here, I am monitoring two different applications right now. Netflix, which is extremely important for the household, as well as Twitter, also known as X. We can see here that in this amount of time, let's flip this over to the last day. Looks like we've had healthy connectivity for this Netflix application on the LAN side, on the WAN, and even the server. Things seem healthy. Keep in mind, with many of these applications out there on the internet, it's not just one server that you're connecting to over time. There can be dozens of servers that you can connect to, and server A might have issues while server B does not. Server A might have high latency while server B does not. Those are things that you can see with Insight. So let's take a look at what information we can see out there. We'll click on Netflix and we'll click on View Trends. And under Netflix, we see some information for the network. You have a couple of tabs here that you can click on just to get some insight. No pun intended. Now we have performance score for our application over time, the network usage, and the latency over time. And we also see that some of the events out there have been added in here. So if we click on one of these, we'll see that there's some events perhaps to try and correlate what's happening out there in your logs with what you see on the WAN side, because sometimes those two things are the same. We'll check the details out here, and we can see that at some point port 4 went up and down. Port 4 is definitely not one of my WAN ports. Nothing important there, so it's just something to let us know, hey, something happened here that might contribute to perhaps poor performance on the WAN side of the house or for a particular application. We'll click through here. We'll see more information on our application, HTTP response time, usage time, and the request rate as well over time. We see that we had a couple of blips here, and these thresholds are thresholds that you can configure. By default, most of these thresholds, at least for the response time, is 3 seconds. You can bring that down. You can also push that up depending on the application and what you're monitoring. So a couple blips there on the response time. Nothing concerning. We can see information on what's happening on the WAN as well, and we can also see the LAN if there's some loss, some latency. All of that is kept track of in Insight for your configured application. Let's click on servers. As you can see here, one of the things that I spoke about just a minute ago is there are multiple servers. This is Netflix. There are multiple servers that I am reaching out to for these connections over time. And if there's an issue with one, or if there is a bad response time with one, you'll see that here because that can be totally possible. Let's go back to Web App Health. And what I want to do is I want to configure a web app. It's very simple to do. We'll click on Configure Web App. As I mentioned, you have a lot of options out of the box. If you want to take a look at Adobe Creative Cloud, you can check that. We'll add that to the list, and we'll just click Save. We'll use the default thresholds there. And it takes some time, of course, to populate that data for what you're monitoring, so have some patience. But that will be added into your applications, and you'll start monitoring that, especially as there's traffic going, let's say, to Adobe, which is the example that I selected in here. Now, you can create your custom applications. You can also set custom alerts. So if you want certain alerts or even webhooks for a particular application, if it goes over a threshold or if there's packet loss, you can do those things for your application. It's taking a bit there. So what we'll do for now is let's click on Insight and let's go over to WAN Health. WAN Health keeps track of your WAN. It keeps track of the circuits that you have connected to your MX, to your Z3. So as we can see here, we have two connections that are coming into the house. We have a WAN 1, which is our fiber connection into the house. And then we also have WAN 2, which is our cellular connectivity. You see some statistics there on what's happening with each of these connections. What we're going to do is we're going to click on availability, and we're keeping track of everything that's happening there with usage, the history over time. As you can see there, in the last 2 hours, we've had a good 28 gigs of TV time. Darn those kids. But it's the TV is very busy, and that's why Netflix is very important here. But you can see that all this statistics is being kept track of, the usage over time. So far, it looks like at least in the last 2 hours, WAN 1 has been good. There has been no loss, which is a great thing. And there has been some latency there that it looks like we had a drop in latency there. We also had a little blip in latency there. I remember that was a speed test I was running, which matches the jitter. Yep, that looks about right with the speed tests. You can see this information for WAN 1 and for WAN 2. Usage there, that was a blip from speed test I was doing. Latency, there's not much going on this cellular gateway because cellular gateway is my second connection. I don't do anything there unless WAN 1 goes down. I don't want the cellular connection to be used. If you missed that video on the cellular gateway, take a look at the history. Take a look at the cellular gateway, the MG52. Now let's go back up and we'll click on the top applications. As you can see there, again, Netflix is the top application here. Doesn't mean I'm not doing work. You can see WebEx video is second up there, at least in the last 2 hours. So there is work that happens here in this house. Now, let's take a look at Insight, and we'll go back up to Web App Health just to make sure that my Adobe Cloud was added in. All right, Adobe Creative Cloud is now in there. It's being monitored. Things are looking good there. Again, if you're not looking at some of the thresholds that are out of the box, you can make changes to those for particular applications. So for the Adobe Creative Cloud, if I'm looking for a specific response time or I want to alert on something, then you have the ability to change this down or even change it up. Right now, I'm just leaving it at what's recommended, which is the 3 seconds there. Now exit that. So far, we took a look at Web App Health. We took a look at WAN Health. This is all data that's coming together. It's being put together for you. Let's take a look at VoIP Health. We're not going to do much there right now. I don't have voice servers out there that I'm trying to monitor, but you have the ability for your environment to configure VoIP servers that you'd like to monitor. If you want the MOS score and things like that, if those are things and statistics that you care about and you want to alert on, you can do those things by providing the IP addresses there, the host names, and you can monitor those as well using Meraki Insight. If we take a look at internet outages, I did say earlier that this might look familiar to some of you and that are users of Thousand Eyes. This is really that. It tells you what's going on out there on the internet. And this is something that for those users of Thousand Eyes, you can also see within Thousand Eyes. This is that leads to add additional context to what's going on. If you're noticing there are some issues in the enterprise, perhaps there's something going on in your part of the world that you might want to take a look at. But you might also want to take a look at Thousand Eyes because there's a lot you can do with Thousand Eyes. And again, if you missed those videos, take a look back at the history so you can see what you can do with Thousand Eyes. And the interesting thing is that you can run an agent, a Thousand Eyes agent, on your Meraki MX. You can take a look at that. If we go back to Insight, active application monitoring. I don't have it configured yet, but I will for a future video. But you can put a Thousand Eyes agent on a Meraki MX that's compatible, and you can run tests using Thousand Eyes. Because you might have been thinking, you might have said, hey, can I do some of this with Thousand Eyes? Can I do additional tests with Thousand Eyes? Those are things you can do, and you can use the MX. You can add an agent there, and you can use that for testing. And as you can see here, in the future, that will be directly accessible within the dashboard. For now, you'll be taken over to the Thousand Eyes dashboard, but everything is coming together within the Meraki dashboard. So I want to make sure you know that. You can take advantage of Insight and you can take a look at what's happening with your WAN, with your applications that you can configure there. And then you can take it a step further and use Thousand Eyes for additional testing within your environment. Good data leads to good decisions. Take a look at what you can do with Meraki Insight in your environment. I'll see you on the next one.